Sacked Ondo State Speaker, 8 others retake assembly. Nigeria's total electricity generation falls below 4,000 megawatts. In international news, death toll rises to 4,200 still missing in California wildfires. And in sports, Super Falcons edge Ivorian club 11 sisters in friendly.
This is NN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The House of Representatives Committee on Public Petition has summoned the Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Dakuku Peterside, and Executive Secretary, Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board, Simbi Wakbote, to appear before it today for allegedly awarding more than 30 billion naira in contracts to a Dubai-based company in breach of the Local Content Act. The committee is acting on a petition by the Civil Liberties Organization, which alleges gross abuse of the act by Topaz Dubai and Team Offshore Nigeria Limited. Chairman of the committee, Uzoma Abonta, who issued the summons, said Peterside and Wabote have been invited to explain their alleged failure to stop the huge capital flight through the firm. President Muhammadu Buhari has been asked to investigate the use of bailout funds by the Borno State government. Reacting to the protest by pensioners in Borno State, the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate Alhaji Muhammad Imam has lamented the non-payment of pensions and gratuities of some retired civil servants in the state since 2016. He has asked President Buhari to look deeply into this development he called distasteful, especially what he said were untold hardship caused by these retirees, whom he said have made a lot of sacrifices in the state service. Here's an update to the Ondo State Assembly saga. 9 members of the Ondo State House of Assembly, led by sacked Speaker of the House, Bamidele Oloyelogun, convened a sitting of the Assembly on Monday. Presiding over the 8 other lawmakers, Oloyelogun said, quote, the impeachment did not satisfy the constitutional requirement of a 2/3 majority for the removal of a Speaker of the House, end quote. At least 18 of 26 House members reportedly signed the notice of impeachment, initially showing that the House perhaps mustered the necessary 2/3 majority. The lawmakers Sunday Olajide and Olushola Oluyede claimed their signatures were forged by the faction in a bid to remove Oloyelogun and his deputy. He said it was criminal for anyone to forge his signature without his consent, noting he was not part of any meeting and did not participate in the impeachment exercise. Again, Kano High Court has upheld its earlier order on Monday, stopping the State House of Assembly Investigative Committee from investigating the bribery allegation against Governor Abdullahi Ganduje. The court also ordered all other parties involved in the investigation to maintain status quo pending determination of the originating summon. When the case came up for hearing, counsel to the plaintiff, Khalid Abdulateef, said that going by Order 29, Rule 1 and Order 28, Rule 1 and 4 of the Rules of the Court 2014, the application filed on behalf of the plaintiff in November still subsists to restrain the defendant, Kano State House of Assembly, Bafa Barba Danagundi, and the State Attorney from further investigation of the bribery allegation.
It is important to note that the court did not stop the committee from doing its work. The court only pronounced that status quo be maintained. You can translate it to your understanding. There's no order that specifically says stop work.
This is sorry news on the state of Nigeria's electricity. The total electricity generation in the country has remained below 4,000 megawatts in recent months. Low load demand by distribution companies tops the list of factors causing idle capacity in power stations. The nation's power plants generated 37,000 megawatts on Friday. Power generation, which has been hovering below 4,000 megawatts in recent months, rose to 4,200 megawatts on Wednesday from 3,800 megawatts the previous day, pathetic for a country with almost 200 million inhabitants. After about 8 months, when it made the initial $50 million non-refundable deposit to acquire 9 Mobile, Teleology Holdings has been given final approval by the board of the Nigerian Communications Commission to own the telecommunications company. The company has also immediately constituted a new board of directors to manage 9 Mobile's affairs. One of the new board members, Mohammed Edewo, said Teleology is pleased with all outgoing members of the board for helping to shepherd 9 Mobile through the critical transition phase it has gone through since July last year. Teleology was also granted a 20-day extension to tidy up the payment process and take over 9 Mobile. NCC also hinted that even with the final payment, the technical capacity of Teleology to manage 9 Mobile successfully must be put into serious forensic tests before operating license could be transferred to it. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, was unable to meet its debt obligation as due in January as a result of inadequate finances. The National Oil Company was also encumbered by huge outstanding Federation Account Allocation Committee remittances and other financial obligations which impeded its operations and financial stability. Documents show that at the height of the nationwide fuel crisis between December and January, NNPC could not import petroleum products because of lack of funds. The documents detail the challenges NNPC faced early this year and include an exchange between President Muhammadu Buhari and the corporation in which its management expressed frustration with growing fuel consumption levels in the country. In a January memo, NNPC Group Managing Director Mukanti Baru raised concerns over depletion in the nation's strategic fuel reserves because of massive diversion and hoarding of petroleum products. Coming up, African stories. South Africa unveils one of its biggest art murals. And later, death toll in wildfires sweeping California has risen to 42. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. Ethiopia has arrested more than 60 former security and intelligence officials for alleged human rights abuses and corruption. Ethiopia's Attorney General, Bekanit Swegaye, accused members of the National Intelligence and Security Service after a string investigations of carrying out a grenade attack on a rally attended by the Prime Minister 5 months ago. 2 persons were killed in the attack. Bahana said killings, beatings, repeated rape, and disappearance of prisoners are some of the offenses allegedly committed by the former security and intelligence officials against suspects held under anti-terrorism legislation. He says some are still on the run. 36 suspects were arrested over the weekend in relation to these crimes. 27 additional individuals from the military conglomerate, Metal and Engineering Corporation are also in police custody for allegedly embezzling public funds for more than a decade. Many cash merchants in the Sudanese capital have run out of banknotes as the government scrambles to prevent economic collapse with a sharp devaluation and emergency austerity measures. Banknote shortage comes 1 month after authorities let the value of the currency slide and announced measures to tighten spending. Rising demand for cash due to inflation, lack of trust in the banking system, and the central bank's policy of restricting the money supply to protect the Sudanese pound have all contributed to a liquidity crunch that has worsened in the past 10 days, pending new banknotes deliveries. Rampant inflation, strict withdrawal limits, and the currency crisis already placed Sudan's economy in deep trouble before the latest liquidity crisis. Since losing 3/4 of its output of oil in 2011, Sudan has suffered from a lack of foreign currency, coupled with U.S. sanctions for 2 decades. Zimbabwe's military has told the Commission of Inquiry that its soldiers did not kill civilians during protests that erupted in the capital, Harare, after the contentious July polls. 6 persons were shot and killed, and more than a dozen others injured in the aftermath of the first election since the ouster of Robert Mugabe, who ruled for 3 decades. A 7-member independent commission of inquiry set up 4 months ago and headed by former South African President Kalega Motlanthe has been hearing testimony to establish who was to blame for the protest and the fatalities. The government has said no order was given to shoot civilians and that victims, some shot in the back, could have been killed by armed business owners or militant opposition protesters. Video footage seems to suggest otherwise. The United Nations Security Council is set to vote on Wednesday to lift a nearly decade-old arms embargo and targeted sanctions on Eritrea after the country's rapprochement with Ethiopia and toying of relations with Djibouti. Diplomats, speaking on condition of anonymity, said the 15-member council completed negotiations on Monday and agreed on a British drafted resolution to remove the sanctions which were imposed in 2009 after UN experts accused Eritrea of supporting armed groups in Somalia. Eritrea has denied the accusations. A resolution needs 9 votes in favor and no vetoes by the United States, China, Russia, Britain, or France. Diplomats expect Wednesday's vote to be unanimous. A November 2017 Security Council resolution said the peaceful settlement of the border dispute would be a factor in any review of sanctions on Eritrea. Both the United States and China have military bases in Djibouti. Egypt has announced the discovery of 7 tombs at the time of Pharaoh, 4 of which date back to the Old Kingdom in Saqqara Necropolis in Giza province. Archaeologists discovered thousands of relics inside the tombs, such as mummified carts, wooden cart statues, and a bronze bust of Bastet, the ancient Egyptian goddess of carts, as well as snakes and crocodiles. Dozens of carts mummies were unearthed, along with 100 wooden girded statues of carts and a bronze one dedicated to Bastet, which proves that ancient Egyptians view carts as divine. The artifacts will be displayed for free starting on Thursday at the Imported Museum of Saqqara for a month before being sent to other museums. A Belgian street artist is being credited for transforming a 400-square-meter wall into an artful mural on an inner-city building in Cape Town, South Africa. A big dog with an aviator hat and goggles is now featured on a mural that is among the largest the city has ever seen. Bart Smith spent more than a week painting the side wall of the building. More than 100 spray cans were used to paint the giant mural, which forms part of a billboard commissioned by NGO Bazart to highlight the upcoming International Public Art Festival next year. When we return, death toll in wildfires sweeping California has risen to 42. And later sport, Super Falcons beat Ivorian club 11 Sisters 4-0 in a friendly game.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is NN News. On the foreign scene, California is burning. Wildfires have been raging non-stop and communities have been razed. The city of Paradise in the northern part of the state has been incinerated and basically razed from existence by the wildfires. 300,000 Malibu residents have had to evacuate as the fires encroach and destroy homes. Authorities said on Monday such teams have recovered remains of 42 persons killed by the fierce wildfire. Dropped the campfire, marking the greatest loss of lives from a wildland blaze in state history. More than 100 are also still missing. The fire is already ranked as the most destructive on record in California in terms of property losses. It has consumed more than 7,100 homes and other structures since igniting on Thursday in Butte County's Sierra foothills, about 175 miles north of San Francisco. Palestinian militants kept up their most intense rocket fire in Israel since the 2014 Gaza war on Tuesday, during Israeli airstrikes against Hamas's television station and other targets. The flare-up threatens to derail efforts by the United Nations, Egypt and Qatar to broker a long-term truce and head of another major conflict in the impoverished enclave. 5 Palestinians, 4 of them militants and a civilian in Israel, were killed. Hamas, Gaza's dominant Islamic movement, and other armed factions launched more than 400 rockets or mortar bombs across the border. It also had carried out a surprise guided missile attack on Monday on a bus, wounding an Israeli soldier. Hamas said it was retaliating for a botched Israeli commando raid in Gaza that killed one of its commanders and 6 other gunmen. An Israeli colonel was also killed in the incident. Sirens in southern Israeli towns and the port of Ashkelon sent residents rushing to bomb shelters. Several homes were hit, and the military said Israel's Iron Dome anti-rocket system intercepted more than 100 rockets and mortar bombs. Israel responded with dozens of airstrikes against Gaza buildings, including a Hamas intelligence compound and the Aqsa television stations whose employees had received advanced warnings from the military to evacuate. Now to U.S. politics. Vote recount continues in Florida to determine winners in the state's governorship and Senate races. The margins were so close that automatic recounts were triggered. The results are due on Thursday. Meanwhile, Democrat Kristen Sinema defeated Republican Martha Muscatelli to win a close U.S. Senate race in the state of Arizona after last Tuesday's elections. That is a Senate seat pickup for Democrats. Arizona has not elected a Democratic U.S. Senator in 30 years. Despite the Arizona results, Republicans will keep control of the 100-member Senate, winning at least 51 seats to the Democrats, 47. Results in Florida and Mississippi are still outstanding. Sinema 42, a U.S. representative and former social worker, will become Arizona's first female senator. She will succeed Republican Jeff Flake, who did not seek re-election and has been a vocal critic of Republican President Donald Trump. A non-profit group said on Tuesday the number of international students entering U.S. colleges and universities has fallen for the second year in a row. This in the midst of efforts by the Trump administration to tighten restrictions on foreigners studying in the United States. An annual survey released by the Institute of International Education shows new enrollment for the 2017-2018 school year slumped 6.5% compared with the previous year. That follows a 3.5% decline in new international students tallied in the 2016-2017 academic year. College administrators and immigration analysts blame several factors for the decrease. Glaring among them is the visa and immigration policy changes by the Trump administration, which is said to have discouraged some international students from enrolling. Alan Goodman, president of the Institute of International Education, says a strong dollar has made U.S. college tuition relatively more expensive. He also said headlines about mass shooters may also have scared off some students. The United Kingdom and the European Union are almost in touching distance of a Brexit deal, which could be clinched in the next 24 to 48 hours. Prime Minister Theresa May said on Monday there were still considerable unresolved issues over Brexit as the two sides approached the endgame in negotiations. Both the EU and the United Kingdom need an agreement to keep trade flowing between the world's biggest trading bloc and the fifth largest national economy. But May has struggled to untangle nearly 46 years of membership without damaging trade or upsetting the lawmakers who will ultimately decide the fate of any deal she can secure. With just under 5 months until Britain leaves the EU, negotiators are haggling over the so-called Northern Irish backstop and an insurance policy to ensure there will be no return to a hard border on the island of Ireland if a future trading relationship is not agreed in time. Up next, sport. Super Falcons beat Ivorian club 11 Sisters 4-0 in a friendly game. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand, that's Palasa phone.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, the Nigeria Basketball Federation has said the men's league will hold as scheduled despite two clubs, Gombe Bulls and Kwara Falcons, dragging into an Abuja High Court over their right to represent the country in the FIBA Africa Zone 3 Club Championship. Gombe and Falcons were the two finalists of the 2018 Kwesi Premier Basketball League, which was organized by the Tijani Umar faction of the NBBF. But the NBBF, under the leadership of Musa Amadou Kida, recently said it would organize an abridged league from November 13 to 17 to determine the country's representatives in the tournament, which holds from November 20 to 25 in Benin Republic. Nigeria's Super Falcons defeated Cote Ivory Coast's 11 Sisters 4-0 in a friendly game in Abidjan Monday. The reigning African champions scored 3 goals in the first half through Aziza Toshoala, Desire Okparanozie and Francesca Odega. The Super Falcons got the 4th goal in the second half against the reigning Ivorian women's champions. Thomas Denebi charges are now expected to leave for Ghana on Wednesday for the 2018 Africa Women's Cup of Nations. Nigeria will face the Bayana of South Africa in the opening fixture on November 18 at the Cape Coast Sports Stadium in South Africa. That is NN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, nnafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at NN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.